I stand before you as a non-political animal. I don't do the tribalism of party politics. I've never belonged to a political party. I have no intention of starting. You are my constituency. You will know me as the Director General of the CBI for the longest it's ever been, for 6.5 years, back in the early part of the OOs. And then I became still the only minister this country has ever had that didn't belong to the party of government. When you make money in a business, you can only do one of three things with it. You can reward the shareholders who took the risk by way of dividend or capital gain on sale, and you'll pay tax on it. Or you can keep the profit in the business as retained profit, and you'll pay tax on it. Or you can employ people and pay them bonuses and overtime and commission and salary and wages, and they'll pay tax on it. And that tax goes in part to pay for the good, decent, hard-working people that we badly need in the public sector: the teachers, the nurses, the doctors, the firefighters, the policemen, the prison officers, the nurses, and they pay tax on it. But if it wasn't for the wealth that you create, personally, every one of you here create wealth, and if it wasn't for you, there would be no tax. And if there was no tax, there would be no public sector. And I'm not too sure a lot of people in this country get it, actually. I think they think it grows on trees, frankly. If you ever think about it, you know, the journalists, the politicians, the trade unionists, the environmentalists, the educationalists, they're always talking about spending it. Spend it now, spend it later, cut spending it, increase spending it. No one ever talks about earning the stuff, do they? So it came to pass that I found myself in the community hall of a suburb of one of Britain's great northern cities. It was peeing with rain outside. The allotted time for the meeting was 7:30. It was 7:29, and the audience numbered 1. Oh, well, I thought, that's politics, I better get on with it. And he turned out to be a fabulous audience. Marvellous. Laughed a bit. I think he clapped once. Anyway, we got to the end. And I said, if it's all the same to you, sir, I think I'll skip the Q&A and I'll get on my way. And he said, I'd rather you didn't, actually, because I'm the next speaker. So, in the year, before we go live, camera here, and that night's anchor was none other than Jeremy Paxman. Yes, Mr. Jones, yes. I understand tonight I'm taking your television virginity. I said, yeah, you are, actually. He said, have you really never been on television? I said, no. He said, well, because of that, I'm known from my first question always being one that knocks people off their perch. My first question really does destabilise them. But because this is your first time ever, I'm actually going to tell you right now, off air, the question I'm going to ask you. And I hope that helps you. But make the most of it, because I'm never going to do it again. I said, oh, thank you, I'm very grateful. What is it? He said, I'm going to ask you, have you heard anything tonight from Tony Blair that makes you think that this government is business friendly? Thank you very much, that's wonderful. So we get the bright white light. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 2.4 million people and my mum. Mr. Jones, should we join the euro? I said, do you know, Mr. Paxman, that is an incredibly important question. But what you should have asked on a night like tonight is, have these people here heard anything that makes you think this government's business friendly? You are so important, and you are facing some amazing challenges and changes. And we have to fundamentally look at the outside life differently, because if we don't, someone else is going to have our lunch. And that doesn't mean you worry about it. It just means that you need to be aware of it, and then you need to make decisions knowing what's coming down the pipe as best you can. There is a wonderful little creature that is fundamentally rupturing society forever. That. We all know how wonderful this is as a tool for what we do. the routes to market, the way that we can market our products, the way we can communicate with our would-be customers as well as our customers, the ability then completely to change the employment profile of people we need to create wealth. It's all different because of this. But the problem is, there's something very, very disturbing going on in society because of this. We have changed the way of social intercourse forever. You see, if I start having a conversation with you, sir, our eyes are already looking at each other. And then the body language is going to start. So if I say something that's rude, personal to you, you will probably fold your arms, you might turn your shoulder, your eyes will harden, and your mouth certainly won't smile. If I say something to you that you like, your eyes will brighten, you might go into a faint smile, and your body will open up. And of course, we can put that concept into any sort of intercourse we wish, socially, business-wise, whatever it may be. This stops all that. What you do is unilaterally, you do that. Somebody gets it, reads it, and they respond. So we're not having bilateral social intercourse at all. You're having unilateral, in a bubble, intercourse instead. Therefore, the whole emotional intelligence antenna and radar that is there in our consciousness that enables us to have relationships is over. Add to that the fact that if you start to say, I like ABC, it might be food, it might be clothes, it might be a football team, it might be a political party, it might be a view on history or something else, I like it, and people, all they have to do is press like. And if enough people press like, suddenly you're in a bubble. And that bubble can be millions. And there you are. And you're completely surrounded by people who agree with you. So everything you do, your prejudice is just consistently fulfilled. And then over here, there's another group of people who press like about something absolutely different. But there is no way that you wish to listen to them because they're wrong. Because you've got millions of people on this little machine every day telling you that you're right. So when a man, for instance, at Oxford says, I think the British Empire wasn't all bad, suddenly you find this absolutely repulsive because all your friends in your bubble are telling you so. So you ban him. You don't do what you should do, which is listen to his argument. Then, if you disagree with him, take him on and have a proper conversation. No, 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 no. We're not even going to have our feelings hurt. On your way, pal. Therein lies a really destructive element in our society, because the one thing that will stop is creativity, original thought, the ability to rationalize, the ability to understand another point of view. I've decided I'm, in the future, going to do Facebook manually. What that means is you go down a street and you stop a total stranger and tell them what you're going to have for lunch today. And I did it, and I got lots of followers. Policemen, traffic wardens. I think we are heading for the biggest schism in our political and therefore business environment, probably since the Second World War. I don't think the next election is going to be fought between Labour and Conservative, although obviously on the face of it, it will. I think it's going to be fought between democratic capitalism and Marxism. It is a fact of life. There was never enough money to pay pensions in this country. It's just that no one ever lived long enough to find out. Well, you didn't, did you? You know, you worked till you're 65, you did a decent thing, you died at 67. If you got through to 75, you were living off the pension contribution of some poor bastard who died when he was 50. But no politician will grasp the fact that we're all living longer because it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you as voters, and it's going to cost you as the businesses that create the wealth. You need, all of you, in your workplaces to get people thinking, saving in pensions, thinking about the changing priorities that people, young people have in their lives, and how can we deal with that in our workplace? And I'm what I call a reluctant Brexiteer. So I could see lots of reasons to stay in. But having been at the CBI inside in Brussels and then as trade minister, I could just see it was an organisation that was marching valiantly towards 1970. It's owned by Germany, it's run by Germany, but I thought I'd go on my own little wander around. And what's very important is you don't just go and preach, you must listen and you must understand and learn. I went home that night and I said to Pat, do you know, this country, regardless of how it votes, it's going to be close and it's going to be divided for a generation. It's going to be divided sectorally, manufacturing, financial services on one side, a lot of small businesses who've had Brussels up to here on the other side, a lot of farmers, a lot of fisheries, all wanting to be out. It's going to be divided geographically, by and large, a line from Bristol to the Wash, north and south. And it's going to be divided demographically. Again, generalisation, but by and large, the under 30s and the over 40s, that sort of thing. And I said, it'll absolutely drive our society apart. And now we're coming out. What we need to do more than anything else is pull together. We must, as a nation, face this together. And I don't see any of that. I see a lot of people on all parties using this for party benefit, for ambition, political ambition, in all the parties. In my place in the House of Lords, the one thing I feel very, very strongly about is we should never, ever overrule the Commons. No one elected us. We're appointed there because we have a skill or experience that we can come and look at legislation and revise it and comment on it and kick up a stink about it, like a non-exec director, really. We're not there to actually pass laws to affect you. That's why you elect people, and that's what the Commons does. We're seeing the Remain camp basically saying, I'm going to slow this down, I'm going to, the greatest lie at the moment is I respect the view of the British people, but they're slowing it down, they want to change things, they want to get it to the edge. And frankly, this nation is only going to make it work if we pull together. We are an amazing trading country. We trade per capita more than any other country on the planet. It's in our DNA. We built an empire on it. Will you buy my goods? No, bang, now will you buy my goods? I mean, it works a treat. We're the biggest home for inward investment in the European Union. We're the biggest investor in non-property of any other country in America. We're good at it. Because actually, we can create a really good trade agreement with the European Union. They need us. We need them. We are genuinely confused because we're saying, do we make a decision based on a hard Brexit or a soft Brexit? I don't think there'll be tariffs at all. The tariff argument, it'll be nil because it's in no one's interest, especially Germany. But there will be bureaucracy at the border. There will be delays in deliveries and supply chain because of the fact that there will be a form of red tape that we don't have at the moment. And so I think we will end up with one of two things. Either the Remainers will take it to the point where somebody starts saying to Europe, will you have us back? And the biggest shock in the world will be no. Or yes, on such appalling terms that no one will go for it. If we accept the challenge and do something about it, we will not make a difference. We will make the difference.
How do you see the future trends in the sector?
If we go on as we are with this perceived abuse of the market by chief executives, and I'm talking mainly about their pay, when people know that in many instances it's on the back of government policy, or where management have failed, especially the small supplier, I'm thinking of Carillion, this disgusting way in which they just think they can bank with you rather than their bankers by borrowing money off you, by not paying you for what you've supplied them. And I think if this goes on, there's going to be, firstly, there's going to be a form of regulation about the release of land banks by house builders. That would be awful. I wouldn't let a civil servant or a politician run a bath, frankly, let alone a building company. But democratically elected politicians will have no choice because they'll have to respond to the voter, and the voter's saying, build me more houses. I can see a need to reform planning permission more. Problem with that, of course, is vote for me and I'll build a house in your back garden has never been a great electoral slogan. But again, I can see a good thing would be big statutory drive on the development of brown land. And that would be a great thing. And if high streets are changing, and if that little machine is changing how people make their purchase decisions in retail, there's going to be an awful lot of places in high streets which are empty shops. Well, let's turn them into houses.